Whether you're working on the degree or you've just graduated, you're probably wondering what's next.
Well, don't worry. We were wondering exactly the same thing.
From auditions to young artist training programs and beyond, we've been there and we got your back.
This is Between the Notes, real talk for singers chasing the dream. Hey, welcome to episode 2, all about resumes. So we want to get into materials and how we're going to present ourselves before we even get in the room. So, Weston, what do you have to say?
Well, I think when you're talking about resumes, you want to make sure that there are 3 things, right? We want them to be organized, clear, and informative.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We want to keep everything evenly spaced and lined up on the page. And we'll get into that when we show some examples here in a second.
Sure.
But I think that one of the things that you can be a little bit more artistic with, or at least show some of your own personality, is in the header.
I love it. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? I
think that, picking a font that, kind of suits your personality or whatever, just kind of shows the way there are a million fonts, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can splash some color in there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying putting a border around the whole thing, which I think is like to look like a party invitation, but some kind of line or like swiggle or, I've seen people that have graphics where it's just like, it's very classy. You want it to be professional. At the end of the day, you want it to be classy. I think it's a good way to kind of set it apart from just, name-centered, tenor, here's all my stuff. But don't go crazy. We want the headshot in the upper right corner, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard these days.
Yeah.
And that's where you get to kind of be individual. Everything else should be like a reference, right?
Yeah, and you can add a little bit of your own personality in the verbiage that you use, because once you start separating categories, you could have complete performed roles, or you could say opera roles, or you could, there's a bunch of different ways you can basically word that.
Yeah.
You could then say opera scenes, or you could say partial roles performed, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
Concert
I think it's important.
And oratorio work, like however you want to word it.
Whatever you've got that's going to put you in your best light, right? That's going to show this is what I've been up to, and this is, like what I.
This is the experience.
This is my experience, and this is what I've sung and feel really good about. So,
well, and it's important to remember that this is their first impression of you, essentially, because let's face it, you're applying to things on Yap Tracker, or you're emailing, different managers or heads of companies, and you're attaching your headshot and your resume and your bio to the email that you're sending out. And so if they do look at it, and we can get into that later, how to make sure that we use our networking skills to make sure that we send those things out in the right way.
Yeah.
But it's first impressions. So why don't we get into it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here is a resume of a student of mine named Riley Findley, baritone. I will say that if you take a look at this resume, it's very clearly laid out. We've got roles with role, opera, group, month and year, which is great. He puts his education here. He's got an artist diploma, bachelor of music, what his degree emphasis was, and then you've got the location, and then you've got the years. You've got training programs. What's great about this is that it all lines up, right? And then you've got awards, accolades, different competitions that he's done, whether he was a winner or second prize or semifinalist. It's all listed here. Then you've got voice study, coaches, directors, and conductors. I think that's a great sort of representation of that, exactly what we were just talking about. And
super clear, super neat.
I will say this, that's obviously an industry trend, because I have in no way, I didn't help him with that resume. That was just what he sent me. So that's great.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at another student of mine's resume.
Okay.
Let's see here if I can pull this one up. This is a student of mine named Brennan Blankenship. It's got her voice category in red, which, to your point, right, a little bit
Yeah.
of like sass, right? I
Right.
like that.
Absolutely. Very
Uh,
Violetta.
Headshot again in the top right corner. I love it
Mm-hmm.
again. Violetta, exactly right, like right off the bat,
Right.
Violetta. I think what's cool is that again you've got clear dictated categories with roles, awards, programs, education, teachers, coaches, directors, conductors. It's so clear. And if you look at this one and the one before it, it's so easy to see like, okay, this is industry standard.
Right.
So I think it's important to start to take notice of like how these things are laid out. Now you'll see here in the middle two asterisks that say switch to soprano repertoire beginning January 2020.
There we go. Right.
Amazing. So when she and I first started working together, she was actually a mezzo soprano. And through COVID, I was like, look, you're a soprano. And I think we need to really make that shift. And I think you need to start working technically in a different way that allows
Sure.
you to really explore this different Fox switch, but also to, start looking at new repertoire. And lo and behold, so you see a lot of like, mezzo roles. And then
Mm-hmm.
right around the Carabino Britomara, which was her Marilla debut, she actually
Right.
did a world premiere of Gene Shear and Jake Heggie's "If I Were You" when
Mm.
the summer she was at Marilla,
Yeah.
which is it's a high sufficient mezzo role, but boom, right after that, her next role was Violetta in Traviata, followed by just a slew of other soprano roles.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's obvious that we keep these tabbed columns, and again, explaining as much information as possible. She's got her young artist training programs here just listed as programs, but she's got studio artist, Kentucky Opera,
Right.
resident artist, Opera North, studio artist, Michigan Opera Theater. So, and then the years that are applicable. Education down here at the bottom, near where the teachers and coaches and directors are.
Yeah. I mean, there will come a time where you can drop off the roles that you're no longer that voice part, right?
Well,
But
sure.
for
Or like
now,
if you
we
did the
just want
roles
to.
when you were in school,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We just want to see that you've been at this for a while and that you're ambitious and you're going after, you're auditioning for operas at your school, you're auditioning for summer programs, for competitions. All this to say that you're just really in it and
Right.
going after it.
Right. Well, let's wrap up. I've got one more resume to share.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I don't know who this guy is. I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous, but I will say, okay, all right. So
Whoa.
it's mine. Um,
Maramina.
so I will say that, like, as we sort of like take a look at this, this is just the top part of it, which is the one page,
Right.
performance experience. Now, what I did was I listed the role, the opera, the presenting organization, as well as the director and the conductor, and then the year. So if you can sort of bump those tabs out, or those, the little columns out, so that you can fit more information on there, once you really start to work in more places, and the conductors and the directors that you're working with, like you said before, you're working and relying on that sort of
Right.
networking, I should say, idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to include people because they can say, "Oh, I didn't realize you worked with such and such and such and such when you
And
were."
that's exactly how it happens, right?
Right, right, right.
And they could be best friends from back when they went to school together, or they could be roommates. Have at again when they were at Aspen or something like that. And so
Right.
relationships can be everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to be prepared. You have to sing well, but on top of that. When people are looking to hire somebody or bring them to their young artist program, they want to know before you even get on the plane to go there,
Right.
that your reputation precedes you and that you're professional, and that you're going to show up and you're going to knock everybody's socks off, and then you get hired back again, and it's great.
Eventually, I mean, I don't think that as a performer I ever used a resume since I signed with management, which would have been
Right.
2003.
And
Because
once you get to that point, they take over ownership of all that. Okay,
Exactly.
they write your bio, they get your resume, you give them the headshot, they format it, they put it on their website, all that kind of stuff. But again, that's we're aiming for there. This is to hope to try and what are the steps to get there, right?
Right. And
Absolutely.
I think what you were hinting towards is just whether you have management or whether you're a student, trying to understand what this career is even all about, it's important that you start building these different documents along the way that start to categorize the experience that you garner. And eventually, when you do get to be a, I don't know, artist diploma student or a master's student or a young artist in a program, you've
Mm-hmm.
got things built up along the way in these different, let's say, resume or bios or whatever it
Right.
is that you're creating for yourself,
Yeah.
so that the materials you present are as competitive as those peers of yours that already do have management,
Right.
right? So hopefully you learned a great deal about how to construct that resume, what's expected, the industry standards, and join us next week when we talk about how to create that bio, right? Because there's a
Yeah.
long bio and a short bio. And we're
Right.
going to talk to you about the ways to construct that, again, that sort of meet those industry standards, but interesting and creative ways that can still show you as an individual artist.
See you then.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Between the Notes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And join us next week for more behind the scenes stories, laughs, and operatic gold coming your way.